Hi guys, so sorry for the delay. Today we're going to go over the restaurant bill calculator assignment that's due Monday morning. So Friday in class we went over the concentric circles, so hopefully you guys were able to complete your assignments based on that little demonstration we did in class. So in addition to the TurboGrafx side of things, this last week we went more over into variables, data types, type conversions, and operators. So that's what we're going to be using for this assignment. So I brought up a copy of our assignment requirements as well as Python's built-in functions documentation. So I have that for reference in case we need those things for this assignment. I also have my Python shell open as well as a script that I named restaurant.py, and I went ahead and added my comments using the comment header format with the author, date, program name, and a little description of it, as well as I added my comments based on the requirements from the assignment, which is how I choose to start my programs. If I know my requirements or a certain problem I'm trying to solve, I'll go ahead and spell it out in just plain English and then go through and code from there. So I know to begin with I need to import any modules that I'll need to complete the program. From the requirements, I can see I need to print the program title followed by a line of dashes. I need to prompt the users for input, which will be the restaurant name, bill amount, tip percentage, and number in the party. I need to assign them to variables and then convert them to the proper data types. And I need to make sure that my variable names use camel case and are meaningful. You don't have to use camel case if you use the underscore instead, but just make sure you're consistent in whichever coding style you choose to use. Then I need to calculate the tax, tip, and the amount per person and display the results as shown in the requirements, which is down here. So we'll take a look at that when we get to that part. Okay, so starting with import modules. I can't think of any modules that we'll need. Unlike Turtle or our last concentric circles assignment and the art contest, I'm not using TurboGrafx, so I know I don't need the Turtle module. I can't think of anything I would need the random module for, which is the only other module we've used thus far. So I'm just going to leave that blank, and if we don't end up importing anything, I'm going to delete that line. So I know I need to print the program title followed by a line of dashes. So I know I need to use the print function, and it needs to say welcome to the restaurant calculator. So I could just print that there, but I also know that I need to have a line of dashes that's equal to the line of my string here. There's a few different ways we can do this, but I know the way that I want to do it that I believe is the most efficient way. I'm going to create a variable called message. I'm going to have that equal welcome to the restaurant calculator. Alright. Then I'm going to print my message, and I notice that it's in all capitals, so I could have made my string in all caps here, but I think I'm just going to go ahead just for the sake of using the methods and getting used to them. I'm going to use the upper method that converts my string into all uppercase. So my string is the variable message, and I'm going to use the dot upper. And I'm going to save and run my module just to test it, because remember we want to test as often as possible to help us in the debugging process should we run into any issues. So welcome to the restaurant calculator displays just like I needed it to, except for I'm missing the row of dashes. So last week in class we went through the Python documentation and we looked up the length, trying to find the length of a string, and it ended up being the len feature function, So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to print. So the first parameter I'm going to give it is going to be what I want it to print, which is the dash. Then, not comma. Then I want it to print it a certain number of times. So I'm going to multiply it times the length of my message. All right. And save, and I'm going to run it just to be sure that runs as I had hoped. Perfect. That's exactly how I wanted it to look. And I know in class I had specified that it's okay if you wanted to do stars all the way across if that's what you'd prefer. that's fine. It's just we just want to make sure you know how to print something the same number as the message above was the point of that requirement in the assignment. So I went ahead and printed my program title followed by a line of dashes, and I printed the message in all uppercase. And so now I need to prompt the users for input and assign to variables. So it looks like I need to know the name of the restaurant. So I'm going to give a name variable, and I'm going to equal that to input, restaurant name. I need to know the amount of the bill. So I'm going to say amount equals input. Oh, I already have an error there for a mistype. There we go. And it needs to say amount of bill free tip/tax, tip/tax. I need to know the the percentage that they want to tip. So tip percent equals input. What percent do you want to tip? Enter a whole number. There we go. I need to know how many people in the party. So party size is going to equal input, and it's going to say, oops, number of people in your party. Alright, so I have my name, amount, tip percent, and party size. I'm going to go ahead and run that real quickly here to see if I have it all like how I want it to say. So I'm going to put Red Robin, amount of bills $43. I want to tip 15%. I have 3 people in my party. Okay, so that's why I was working. If this is a larger program and I wanted to make sure I was debugging as I went, I might add print statements just to print those and make sure they were working as I needed them to. So it was not only taking the input, but that it was actually saving the input as I thought it should be. So now I need to do my operands using my operators and calculate the tip, tax, and amount per person. Oh wait, I skipped a step. So I also need to convert to the proper data types. So vars, I'm going to go ahead and make this its own comment because I almost forgot it because I wasn't reading the whole thing. So I'm going to add a comment down here and paste that there. Alright, so the name can remain a string. So remember the input function brings back the information as a string by default. So the name can remain a string. The amount, we're going to want that to be a floating integer. Tip percentage needs to be a floating integer. And our party size needs to be an integer. So amount equals, and we're going to use the float function of amount. Tip percent is going to equal, so there's a couple of different ways we can do this. So we know we need to take, they entered it as a whole number. We need to convert it into the percentage format. So I can do tip percent equals float tip percent and then go down and do another line. But we're going to do this all together. So tip percent actually I need to add another, and then divided by 100. So what that's doing is, and it doesn't, oh, I don't have float spelled right. Okay, so what that's doing is it's using the float function to convert my tip percent into a floating integer, and then I'm also going to divide the results of that by 100 to return it in the actual percent, in the decimal format that I need my tip percent to be in, because I had them enter it as a whole number. The last one I need to do is party size, and that's a string, and I don't want it to be a string, I want it to be an integer, so I'm using the int function of party size. Alright, so we now have our message printed with the dashes, the length of our message. We have our name, amount, 10%, and party size all saved from the user input. and we also converted to the proper data type. So now we need to calculate tax, tip, and amount per person. So our calculations, let's see. So first we need to come up with, let's see, our tip. So we'll do tip first. So how much is our tip going to be? So we know that the user entered the tip percentage. So that times the amount of our bill is going to be the tip. So amount times tip percent is going to be our tip. Then we want to come up with the amount of our tax. So tax is going to be 9.5%. We're going to convert that to decimal format on our own, which is 0.095. So I'm just going to say the amount of my bill times 0.095 is going to be our tax. Then the total of our bill is going to be the amount plus our tip plus our tax. And then we need to figure out how much that's going to be per person. So our per person amount is going to be our total divided by our party size. So whatever our grand total is, so if we had our grand total is $40 and we had a party of 4, you know that would be 10, and we did that by dividing the 40 by 4. So total divided by party size. Okay, so we have all that done. Now we need to start displaying our results as shown in the requirements. So far we have our welcome to the restaurant calculator and all dashes. Our restaurant name, bill amount, all that should print to about right here. So now we need it to say your bill for whatever the restaurant name is, dash dash. And it looks like there's a space there. So to account for that space, we're going to do an empty print function, and that'll give us an empty line. So now we need to say print your bill for space, and I'm going to say whatever they gave their name was in uppercase. I'm going to use my upper function, and then comma, quote, dash dash. And then I'm going to use the /n, and that's going to give us a new line. So that will, if we didn't do that, when we printed our next print, it would keep it going. So now we know we're going to go to a new line. And that needs to be inside the quotes. You're using the / as an escape sequence, and then the end saying it's a new line. All right. So after that, we want to print subtotal : space $, end quote. All right, so when we do our float, that brings us back into a decimal point, but it looks like they're only using up to the maximum of 2 decimal places. So I'm going to go into my built-in functions, and I'm going to research float to see if there's a way of doing that way, because it was in the requirements as extra credit if we can get our format all our currency values to do 2 decimal places. So I want to figure out how to do that now. So if I look up float, and I'm just reading through the documentation for, okay, floating point arithmetic issues and limitations. Let's see. Yes, here we go. So is there a way to get it to not have that many? Oh, so that gives 12 significant digits. Format math gives 2 digits after the decimal point. So it looks like it is 0.2f. So 2 would be representing the number of digits after the decimal point. And it's the format function. So our subtotal, and then we're going to use the format function. And this is part of one of the parameters for the print function. So format amount. So first parameter for the format function, and then 0.2f. Okay, I'm going to save and run to see how that works. Make sure I did that function correctly. So my restaurant name, Red Robin. Amount of pre-tax was so $43. What percentage? I'm going to put some 18%. Number of people in my party is 3. And I have something going on. Line 26. Tip percent float. Tip percent divided by 20. So I did something wrong there. or divided by 100. Let's float. Let me see if I just did my syntax wrong, maybe. Okay, so it was my syntax. I did my, what I wanted to do was put my parenthesis there because I was going to have whatever, I was using the float function divided by 100, but whatever the result was for my float function of 10% divided by 100. So that whole thing needed to be in a parenthesis. So I apologize for my syntax error. Alright, so far everything's working good. We got the format function working with our print. So now after subtotal, we need, what's the next thing? Our tax. So we're going to go ahead and print that next. Print. And we're going to say, whoops, tax, which is 9.5%. We're just letting them know. Colon, $, end quote, comma. And we're going to use the format function for this as well. And it's going to be the format of tax, .2f. And then we're going to print a tip. That's the next one. Tip. Colon, oops, colon, $. And that's a region formats. There we go. Tip, .2f. Print. Oh, I'm missing a beginning parentheses, excuse me.
Take Tyra out
Total.
real quick before we leave.
There we go. Format of total, .2f. And amount per person. Print. Amount per person. $, quote, format, total, oops, not total, sorry, per person, comma, oops, apostrophe, .2f, and now we have another blank line, so I'm just going to use the empty print function again, and then I'm going to thank our patrons. So that's just going to be a regular print function with one parameter. Thank you for your patronage. And I'm going to save our program, run it, and we should have a completed assignment now. Restaurant name, Red Robin. Amount of bill, $93. What percentage do you want to tip? 20%. Number of people in our party, 4. There we go. It works. So I hope that was helpful for you. Hopefully, like I said in the announcement, you guys have at least started the assignment and tried it on your own before turning to the tutorial. If not, that's fine. I hope I gave you enough instruction through the tutorial. Please bring any questions you have to class with you Monday. If there is anything you want, any additional information you need. Moving forward, we'll be doing this after the assignments due, so we can go through. We'll have probably a few volunteers to come up and demonstrate their program and explain their code, just to get you used to being able to explain what your code's doing and be able to verbalize that appropriately. Have the great rest of your weekend, guys. Bye.